So let's start with you growing up. Where did you grow up and how did you come up?
I grew up, I'm from, they call it Midtown now. I'm from 20th, my house was actually on 20th Street and 18th Avenue. I grew up, like, my neighborhood is 21st, you know.
Right there by the store, where the store used to be at?
Hold on, by this guy. Yeah, right there, but on 21st where the corner store used to be, they knocked it down.
What corner store that was?
It was called A+.
Right.
But we called the nigga who owned it, Jamaican nigga named Emmett. So we all called it Emmett, you know what I'm saying? Emmett was a good dude. Emmett looked out for the whole neighborhood. Like, it was many nights a nigga went to 8, you know what I'm saying? Like, real shit.
So would they serve food and all that other than?
No, he just would have the groceries.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And he would, you know, we'll be having a tab. He'll let us keep a tab. You know what I'm saying? We get what we want, and, you know, the food stamps come around.
That's right.
We break bread like that, you know what I'm saying? But that shit saved us, boy, shit. Boy,
and that's where your mama, that's where your grandma stayed?
My grandma, I was raised by my grandmother, my daddy mama.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That shit different. You know, most people's story is they was with their mama's grandma.
Right.
I was raised by my daddy and that side, you know what I'm saying?
On your dad's side of the family.
Dad's side raised me, you know what I'm saying? All the boys and the goons and all that kind of shit he did, so.
And your dad, he from St. Pete?
Yeah, he from St. Pete.
Y'all got a pretty decent relationship or what?
We good now.
Well, how was it coming up?
Coming up, my dad then was in the street. You know what I'm saying? My dad then was them heroin boy. They sold that heroin. You know what I'm saying? We had like several businesses. A lot of the shit was before my time, you know what I'm saying? But my family had restaurants like Chubby's. 22nd was like the main, that's where all the niggas was. And they had restaurants on 22nd and they had like just a lot of shit. Smith Funeral Home was ours.
Oh, that was y'all's stuff too?
That was our restaurant. Niggas called it Steins, but it was Steens. Supposed to be like short for Christine. That was my great grandmother name. You know what I'm saying? But niggas, you know, we Steins, goddamn it. Yeah. That was our shit.
And how long,
I was a kid.
How long that was there?
Shit, for a long time. It closed in like right after. I remember like when Jed them got fucked up, cause you know they had the car wash across the street. Right. Like right around that time is when the restaurant got shut down. My uncle who ran it, who owned it, was like heavy gambler. You know what I'm saying? So I guess all that come from that. And being that my dad and them was locked up and shit, like it wasn't no that other money coming in. So it like he couldn't cover, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. The other shit he was doing, like it was just losing. You know what I'm saying? The restaurant can't keep all that shit afloat, but when the street shit was involved, we can hang out. You know what I'm saying? That's what I take from it. I don't really know. That's just what being that I'm a grown man, I understand how this shit work. I feel like that's what it was. You know what I'm saying?
And what you say your dad got locked up at one point?
Yeah, my dad got locked up when I was 11, 12. He got locked up. He went to prison.
From being in the game?
What? In the game and in the streets. And my uncle, which is his brother, my uncle got caught with like some kids of heroin. You know what I'm saying? And he was already gone. And my dad went later on.
When this was, in the 80s?
80s, yeah. 80s, and my dad was all in and out. But back then they had the 65 and a third. Like, you get a year and do 2 months.
True.
So niggas, you go to prison, I done been to prison, so when you go to prison, you see a nigga with, you know, they do the letters. A, B, C, D. You might see a nigga with a fucking Y. A Y letter or a crazy letter next to their number. And each letter is the time you done went. So you got an A, B, or C. C is 3 times you done went. You understand what I'm saying? So you got a nigga with done been 15 times, but back then they was letting your time was nothing. They give you a year, you go to prison and come right back. You understand what I'm saying?
And so coming up, so how many brothers and sisters? You got any sisters?
I got sisters. My sisters is like my cousins. We all grew up together, so I call them my sisters and shit. Like a lot of my cousins my house was my grandma. It's not my grandma's house, it's my great grandma's house. I was raised by my great grandmother and my great grandfather. You understand what I'm saying? And we all lived in the same house. My grandma, my great grandma, and my great grandfather. and my dad and my uncles. You know what I'm saying? In one house, but it was a big ass house, and it was just different. My morals are different to this day. I was raised different. I was raised by old people,
right?
Like real shit. And I look at everything different because I was taught by different people with different standards. These people was retired by the time I was born. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, they could have retired. They was already 60s. You know what I'm saying? When I was fucking born. So.
Then what's some of the like lessons and some of the morals that they, being that they was older?
I didn't even fucking know about slavery, bro, until we fucked around and watching Roots on the TV. Yeah, and we crying and shit. And my great grandfather came like, man, that shit is bullshit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we never even talked about that shit. Like, we knew about Martin Luther King, but he was like, man, they didn't fuck with you. You know how you watch these old movies, slavery type shit, and the nigga, they done busted one of us out with the cocktail, and the nigga come out the door with a rifle and they ride around the horse, still riding in your yard.
Yeah.
He like, man, they didn't fuck with you if they knew you had guns.
So a lot of that stuff that we see, that ain't...
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
What? You not finna do that.
Right.
A nigga finna come out the door with a rifle, but you still gonna be in the front yard like, yeah, nigga.
Right.
It's bullshit. So I never felt inferior to a white person, bro. Because I was raised by a real man, a nigga. Like, my granddad and them, they came from Valdosta. He did some shit to some white people and ran.
Yeah.
You know that story.
Right.
He ended up in St. Pete. He done, you know, they killed a couple, you know.
Yeah.
That's what it was. You didn't fuck with niggas. It's bullshit. The story that the narrative that they giving us, it only happened to small sections of niggas. It didn't happen to where the niggas hung out or what niggas was. My great grandfather was alive when I was a kid. He lived to be 100 and something. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And what was his story? Did he ever have stories about it?
I never got, you know, I was too small.
True.
But my great grandfather would tell me stories about how they died. Like, it was like 20 of them. He had 20 brothers and sisters, shit like that. They would die, in the river. This how they died.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Falling off the log.
Stuff like
falling
that.
out the tree, breaking their neck, and that kind of shit. Not you know, we shoot them up, bang, bang. Our stories are different, so that shit was crazy. I didn't understand it, but now I'm older and I'm like, okay, now I get it. Because going back there, we still got land there. I still have family in Valdosta. We go visit. You know what I'm saying? From my great-great-grandfather.
And was they business owners too?
Yeah. My granddaddy was probably the first, like, lawn man in the city of St. Petersburg. Like, he had this shit on.
You still remember that?
Yeah, I used to work. Listen, he'd have me out there. I used to push the middle bar on the lawnmower. That's how I love him.
Yeah.
I'm pushing the middle one, and that's I learned that shit from him. I still know how to do that shit right now. I do my own shit where I stay at right now, bro. Listen, crazy shit. My chick was like, you know, hire, you know, the lawn people and shit, cause the whole neighborhood doing that. I'm not doing that. If I could cut my own shit, I'm gonna cut my own shit. I started cutting my own yard. We move in the neighborhood, you know what I'm saying, upper middle class shit, and I'm cutting my yard. Bro, all my neighbors started doing it.
Now they cutting their yard.
Swear to God on my life, bro. Because they, you know, upper middle class, white people, whatever. It's a lot of housewives. So I work how I work when I want to work. So I'm out here Monday afternoon cutting my yard. Your wife walking with your kid in the stroller and all that. She's seeing it. You think she ain't saying like, yeah, the nigga over there cutting his yard like, bro, cause it's all men and I'm cool with all of them.
Yeah.
I come out there one Saturday. Yeah, Dave Cross, I just picked up the lawnmower, you know what I mean? Okay, I'm just trying to save money because they taxing us for a little patch. I don't have that much, but y'all taxing because of the neighborhood. It's not about the job, it's the neighborhood.
With the HOA and all that.
No, it's just the people know everybody over here got some money.
Right.
So they taxing us $100 a month for something I could do. It take me, I put my headphones on, I listen to about 3 songs and I'm done.
You finished with it.
Like, come on, man. I ain't paying a bitch that, but yeah, I learned all that shit from my grandfather, man. Coming up. My grandfather used to date, he raised Angela Bassett too. as well.
A lot of people don't know she from St.
She
Pete.
from St. Pete, like real shit. That was my I don't mean, damn man. Hey, I'm sorry, y'all. Damn. But her mom was my granddad's mistress.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, he raised her. She talked about him in her book. Her book she wrote a few years ago. Damn right. And they're from, my people are originally from, like everybody else, from Jordan Park. And if you go around Jordan Park right now, the old, like before it got like it is now, but back in the day, because my grandmother, my mom's mom stayed by Jordan Park right now. But all the houses in that neighborhood, if you remember, or if you, they was prestige, bro.
Right.
They was nice, the yards was nice. I'm talking about when we was kids. Because that part of town was like where the niggas with the money was.
Right.
Jordan Park wasn't a fucking project.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? When my great grandmother tell me that when she would work, cause she did like kitchen work, and she didn't drive. So when the people would take her home, she'd have to get dropped off like around the corner. Cause if you stayed in Jordan Park, you was an uppity nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like they ain't want them to know we stayed in Jordan Park. Cause you got some money. Cause they was like condominiums. It wasn't no project bullshit how it turned out. And what most people gonna remember. But that's wasn't what it was. That whole area right there. St. Peter's is actually a Black Wall Street. It was
I heard about
Street.
Elder Jordan and dude from Demons who got Demons Landing and all that.
St. Pete was a Black Wall Street.
Now take us back to as far as like when you was a kid.
Yeah, I done went everywhere.
When you was a kid coming up, how was it for you coming up as a kid?
Coming up as a kid, you know, same old shit. Playing football in the street. You know, getting in trouble doing just.
You and your brothers hung
me and
out?
my brothers, yeah, we hung out, and we 80s babies, like real 80s babies. Like he's 79, I'm 80, so it's like all that. You was born in 85, 86. You're really not an 80s baby. You know what I'm saying? You don't really know nothing. So growing up, it was cool. My street was 20th Street. Was like a neutron street. All the kids played on 20th. 21st was a drug hole and 19th was a drug hole. So my street was like where all the kids came. And each corner, like 19th had a store in the corner, 21st had a store in the corner. So, but as far as everything was, you know, cool as kid shit. But I remember like when everything fucking changed, bro. I remember like, cause like I said, we used to cut yards for money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Learned that from we used to have a gas can and just go house to house, like cutting yards and shit to get money. But motherfucking, my timeline, I use like music and movies. Like Boys in the Hood came out. It's like everything changed, bro. Like right after Boys in the Hood, like shit went crazy.
You noticed shit changing.
You noticed.